Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Johan and I'm a typical Dutchman. And I react to all kinds of videos about life and living in the US or life and living in Europe, specifically the Netherlands. And if you like this kind of content, reaction videos about Europe or the US, then please subscribe to the channel. It's free and it helps me it's Dutch. It helps me tremendously if you hit the subscribe button. And for today, we're going to take a look about this video of the Hickson Diaries. American in UK reveals how the US schools are indoctrinating your kids and you don't even know it. Alright, it's about the US education system. That's what I was looking for. So I was wondering what is going on with the US education system, because I see so many things that I think this cannot be true. So let's take a look at what she has to say about the US education system.
Specific ways that the US school system functions like a subtle form of indoctrination that I didn't even notice until I moved to the UK. Number one, the Pledge of Allegiance.
Whoa. 7 things. Okay. 7 things that she didn't realize until she left for the UK. And then the first one is, of course, the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, my opinion, for the ones that doesn't follow my channel, I think this is something I don't get. I really don't get it. Why 6-year-olds should pledge their loyalty to the flag before they even know where and what and how, and like someone says, they aren't even able to write allegiance or to spell allegiance, but they have to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah. Let's hear what she has to say about the Pledge of Allegiance.
This is a big one whenever I talk to British people.
Okay.
And now looking back on it, this is probably the most obvious one as well. But when you're in it, it feels completely normal. I had no problem getting up every morning and pledging my allegiance to a government, a country, and a flag that I thought was the greatest country in the world. Every single morning, hand over heart, make sure it's your right hand, that actually matters, droning on about liberty and justice for all before I've even learned my times tables. It actually reminds me of a comment from @DonsLand.
Liberty and justice for all. Okay.
In 1610, who said the amount of brainwashing that goes on in American education system beggars belief. And honestly, when you step outside of the United States bubble, you do actually start to see exactly what they mean. Basically, I figured out that I was just pledging undying loyalty to a government before I'm even old enough to understand what government actually is and what the loyalty I was pledging really means. So in the
Yeah, that's what I say.
UK, or probably anywhere else in Europe for that matter, if you suggested that kids would chant a loyalty oath to the state every morning, people would probably look at you like you're trying to start a cult. And rightfully so. At L4NC3_L0T said, as a German, the school Pledge of Allegiance is horrifying given our history. That
Yeah. Especially in Germany. Yeah. That's why we don't do it. I was raised with every morning when I started at school saying a prayer. So I don't know what the real name is in English, but a prayer in the morning and a prayer in the afternoon at the start of classes. That was, but they removed that requirement. Almost, 25, maybe 30 years ago, because it's not good to force someone's religion to young people who don't even know what religion is and how it works, and maybe they have at home different religion. So yeah, so they kicked it out, the school curriculum, and only specific schools do this, but then there is also the choice of going to another school. So parents can choose if they want to send their kid to a more Christian school, or they want to send their kid to a non-Christian school. And yeah, so that's it. But a pledge, we never did.
It hits hard. I don't know if it hits you hard, but it hits me very hard. Because context is everything, especially when you go back to the stat that the American Congress officially recognized the pledge in 1942. In America, we frame it
in 1942. Yeah, right in the middle of the Second World War.
as patriotism. But to the rest of the world, and especially places who have seen this blind.
Wait, back up.
In America, we frame it as patriotism. But to the rest of the world, and especially places who have seen this blind nationalism and where it leads, it looks terrifying. And now, looking at it from the other side, I have to admit, I agree with the terrifying point of view. It's the repetition that gets you. It's definitely indoctrination, in my opinion. It's not about understanding the words, because you can't possibly understand the gravity of the words at such a young age. Now, we recite this in elementary school, where we start at like 5 years old, and we go into the middle school era at like 11 or 12. Definitely don't have the cognitive reasoning and critical thinking in order to understand what you're actually saying. But
absolutely agreeing. At that age, your brain is not evolved enough to really know what the difference is and why you shouldn't be loyal to somebody, something, or some nation. Yeah.
It is a ritual that we have to perform every single morning in American schools. I mean, you're 5 years old, you literally just started school, regular school, and you don't even know what the word republic means, and yet you're sitting here saying that you know what indivisible is and that you'll protect against dividing America. I mean, just say it. It doesn't make any sense, but still, we say it every single day. Chris Lynch, also from my previous video, put it very perfectly in the comments, describing the pledge as, quote, like a punch in the face, young adult chanting a cult motto. We have to be fair. That is exactly what it looks like from the outside. I'm even horrified as a parent that my child had to participate in that indoctrination, and I was okay with it for a little while. Now, if you do not want your child to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance because of religious reasons, because there is a line that says under God in there, then you are allowed to petition the principal and the school board in order to have your child exempt from saying it. But you are still obligated to stand up and show respect. And if you are somebody who is opted out due to religious reasons, you're an outcast if you don't do it. You're the problem.
You're the outcast? Yeah.
There's something wrong with you. And I remember kids getting sent to the principal's office in my school day for sitting it out. That doesn't make any sense. Eventually, by the time I realized what was happening with my child, I got to the point where I told my child, you can stand up if you want to, you can sit down if you want to, we'll deal with whatever the consequences are. And I think she ended up opting for standing up and just not reciting it. But think about it, either way, you're still standing up and listening to it every single day, even if you're not openly repeating it. We're taught that we are the land of the free, yet from the beginning of our schooling, we have this mandatory performance of patriotism at 8 o'clock in the morning. It can...
Yeah. Prime example why you talk about the land of the free, but if you don't do the Pledge of Allegiance, you are an outcast. Yeah. Freedom of speech and freedom of expression.
conditions you, whether you're reciting the words or not, to conflate the country with the government, with the flag, and that patriotism is actually obedience. The next way I feel like United States schools
It's actually obedience. Okay.
indoctrinate us is the we want it alone history revision. This is primarily about World War II, but it goes to the greatest country in the world, synopsis that they want to push down everybody's throat throughout their life. Basically, if you go through the American school system, you leave believing that the war started in 1941 when Pearl Harbor was bombed.
Okay. Again. Did I hear this
Their life.
correctly?
Basically, if you go through the American school system, you leave believing that the war started in 1941 when Pearl Harbor was bombed.
Actually, yeah. That's what you've been taught in school, according to this American. The war was already going on for 2.5 years by the time that Pearl Harbor was attacked.
And ended because America swooped in and saved the day as if they're like Superman for the world. The narrative is Europe was falling apart. The United States arrived. We beat the Nazis. We beat Japan. And everyone else just kind of supported us. And that is a blatant lie.
Yeah, that's absolutely a lie. Okay, but going to the mindset of an American, that explains something, how some Americans react to some things that are being said in social media. Okay.
Genuinely embarrassing at this point in my life when I look back on it and how little Americans actually know about what happened during World War II, especially before America entered the war. At Mel Whiteside 9369 shared a story about a U.S. serviceman who thought only Omaha and Utah beaches existed on D-Day.
Okay, Omaha and Utah, which Americans took, there were 5 beaches, the UK and Canada. So lessons, yeah, okay.
Literally had no idea that the British and Canadians were even there. That's a failure of education. Blatant.
That's a big failure, yeah. But, no, that's why Saving Private Ryan is only situated at Omaha and Utah Beach. Yeah.
Failure of education. Gus.
By the way, Utah Beach took way longer to get off the beach than the other ones. Yeah.
Failure of education. Then you're someone like me who moves abroad and actually wants to learn and actually wants to expand and grow. And I find, oh, the Soviet front had a huge part to play in the Allied victory in Europe. You learn that the Soviet Union lost over 20 million people fighting the Nazis. And you realize war had been raging for years before the US got involved, and that the British people, the Isles, pulled off the Nazis single-handedly for a very long time.
Yep. But in credit of the Americans, the Soviets could not enter the war in the way they did without the logistical support from the United States, because they went all over the north to Russia to deliver them trucks and railroads and trains and everything they needed to move that massive alliance over to advance into Poland and be really participating in the war against the Nazis. It's, yeah, that's the credit, really the credit you can give to the Americans. But yeah.
Before America came anywhere near it. Helena Greenwood 2305 called the World War II narrative embarrassing, and I completely agree. They pointed out that we conveniently forget about things like U.S. weapons supplies to the wrong side early on. But in US history books, it's the back-to-back World War champs mentality.
Yeah, that's what I hear more often, is that how the history is actually taught in the United States does not match at all with the real history, and it's only America is the great and the best. And yeah, I don't think that you do any favor to your kids to not confront them with the reality that it was in those years. So, yeah.
Literally saves the world. That's what we're told. That's why we think we're the greatest country in the world. That's why we think we're unbeatable. It's so.
Yeah, that's also why I hear a lot of people say we will not support Ukraine because we did it already in World War II and we're not going to do it again. Yeah, that explains why.
So sad. We're taught that we are the saviors of the modern world, and it completely erases the massive sacrifices of other nations and positions America as the main character of the planet, which I guess if you want to take over the world is the way you're supposed to go, but certainly doesn't necessarily vibe with the whole beacon on a hill and let's spread democracy thought process, does it? It's terrible, but what can I say? American exceptionalism at its best. There's also a huge fear of other systems. The weaponization of words like socialism and communism in American education cannot be ignored from this list at all. We aren't just taught that capitalism is good and most other things are bad. I think I was taught all other things are bad. We're also taught that any alternative is evil. There's no nuance. There's no support really for that. There's no actual substantive discussion of facts or the good and bad of any system. In US civics and history, socialism isn't presented as an economic theory or with the pros and cons. It's presented as some kind of slippery slope into a dictatorship or fascism. So when I moved to the UK and saw...
Okay. I didn't know that. I did know that most of the time, socialism, as in what we do, have a better, make sure that our government does things that enhance the quality of life in your country, that social and social care and having a backup for everything you do. That would be not good. It would be communism, but it's a slippery slope into dictatorship. Come on. We proved by the thousands of years that we already exist on this side of the pond that we are not dictatorships.
Socialist programs in practice and actually working for the betterment of society. Programs like the National Health Service, which, I'll be fair, has its problems, but it's a socialist concept and it does work. And when I saw this, I realized that the world hadn't ended and that the British system somehow embracing these socialist concepts actually made its people more free than I was in America, because they didn't have to worry about dying because they didn't have the money to pay for healthcare. But in the US school system, we're inoculated against these ideas at a very early age. We're taught to fear anything that looks like collective care. The idea of the government should actually help people is framed almost as a threat to your liberty. And
yeah, that's the mindset of of the average, not all, but a lot of Americans. I see that in a lot of reactions and in comments on my videos, that this is actually a mindset that's hard to overcome. Yeah.
It limits your ability to even imagine a different way of running a society other than American capitalism. Number 4 is the good guy myth. This is the idea that America is always and historically on the right side of morality. We learn about manifest destiny like it was a heroic trip and not a brutal campaign of displacement and genocide.
No? Oh? Okay. Sorry. So all this relocation of all the indigenous people of the what now is the United States was all peaceful. Yeah. No one died, no wars, no fightings. It's just all, we asked the indigenous people, the Indians, to leave their fertile ground behind for us, and they left peacefully to some part of a desert. Yeah. The good guys.
We learned about the founding fathers being near mythological creatures and not complicated men who actually owned other human beings. When we do bad things, it's treated like a mistake or an anomaly, not a systemic issue. And it's very much whitewashed to look as though it wasn't that big a deal. As Americans, we rarely learn about the coups we sponsored in Latin America or the Middle East, any of the weapons that we might have sold to the other side, as we mentioned earlier, like World War II with the Nazis. And we're always told that when we intervene, it's to spread democracy. As an adult now living outside of the United States, I start to see that for a lot of the world, America isn't the hero of the story. And that is a really hard pill to swallow when you've spent years, 12 years of your education, coloring in maps where the US is the shiny gold center of the universe. Everybody wants to be like us, and everyone wants to come to the greatest country in the world. Tough thing to reconcile with, I'll tell you that. Next, we have
Yeah, we don't. Not anymore.
that paradox of freedom. This one is a funny one. I don't know if it's funny, maybe funny ironic, or funny, I don't know. You guys can tell me in the comments, but I can tell you that Americans are told constantly that we are the freest people on earth, the land of the free, home of the brave. It's in our national anthem. It's in almost every poem or song about America. It's definitely included in almost every Hollywood movie about how America saves the world. And yet, our schools are some of the most restrictive environments imaginable. You have to ask permission to use the bathroom. You have hall passes, and you can be denied the hall pass. In some places, you even have metal detectors for walking through the door, and police officers roaming the hallways. Yeah, my child went to a school where there was an armed police officer, a loaded gun and a taser on them at all times, roaming the halls for safety. I mean, come on, right? Like, how can you even fathom that in any other situation in any other country, really?
Yep. But I want to go back to the part that you said about the freedom, that you need a whole pass to leave and stuff. But what I see a lot of is that the school systems are dictated by parents, as in, I want that this particular book or this particular curriculum is removed from school because X, I, Y, and then it has to be done. Otherwise, I am gonna sue or gonna. What is this? And especially the land of the free, and you cannot go. Yeah, I am a teacher, and if one of my students told me, "Sir, can I go to the bathroom?" Leave. Yeah, that's all I did. Sometimes I say, "No, can you hold it for 2 minutes? Then I'm finished with my explanation for the assignment that you have to do. And then you go and then you can start on the assignment. Otherwise, you'll come back and you don't know what you have to do. And I have to do it again. Tell you again. So can you hold it up for 2 minutes? Yes, I can. Okay, this. And then he left. He left, walk out the door, go to the bathroom, come back, take his place, start working.
I talk to people here in Europe, and I talk to my child who's now in the UK school system. And while there are rules to follow, there are sometimes restrictions on hall passes and going to the bathroom, it's still somewhat of an open campus. I mean, my child walks from building to building inside on like a big campus. Yes, the campus is safe because it's fenced in and you can only get in certain ways and you have to have a card to open any of the gates, etc. But it's a big open campus for them to roam free from place to place, not a huge building where they have to stay contained forever until the end of the school day. I've been told by some British people and those who live in Europe that their children are even free to walk into town for lunch in some cases. My child takes a public local bus to school and doesn't have to worry about making a specific school bus time, 6 o'clock in the morning before they're barely woken up. In the US,
Yep, it's all true. Some students come by bike, some come by public transportation bus, some by train, depending on how far they live from the school. At the school that I worked, age 16 and older, the students came by bus, came by train and bus, usually the combination, first a train and then the bus to get actually to the school. They came with a bicycle. They had classes at different times. Some students started at 9, other ones started at 10. And if they are lucky, some students even started at 1, while other students are finished at 1. So, yeah, and in between, we have seen a lot of students going to the local grocery store and buy the lunch, which usually was some energy drink and some chips. But yeah, the freedom of walking around on the school premises, and we had 5 big towers, so they had to go all between, or to leave the premises and go outside while that not a problem, no problem at all. So yeah, it's in that case, if you're going to compare the freedom of the students in the Netherlands, and I will dare to say in Europe, versus the freedom of students in the United States, you lose.
We are treated like potential inmates, all while being lectured about how much freedom we have compared to the rest of the world. It just doesn't make any sense when you break it down. It creates this cognitive dissonance where you believe you're free, even while you're being strictly controlled. And then you start to develop this thought about the rest of the world, was like, well, if I'm not really feeling that free here, but this is the freest place on earth, everywhere else must be positively awful, which is just not the case. Another thing that we tend to learn in our US education is that we basically are groomed to become obsessed with competition, where everything in the United States schools is a competition. Who has the highest GPA? Who got the best score on this test? Who is valedictorian? Who gets the scholarship? Who got student of the month on their parents' bumper sticker, or whatever BS crap that is? Basically, we're taught that education is a zero-sum game. You have to win, you can't fail. You're either a winner or a loser. There's no in between. There's no real development of the student into a functioning adult with variances, with different perspectives on life, to develop that critical thinking skill at all. It mirrors that hyper-capitalist society that we live in America. We aren't taught to collaborate or help and lift each other up. We're taught to outcompete our neighbors for limited spots in universities. It breeds intense individualism, which is basically what most of us live as under the American flag. You start to view your peers as rivals on every level and every aspect, not just competing for jobs, but everything. And we start to forget that they're actually community members, and we should be working together to build a better community, whether it be at school, whether it be at our neighborhood, whether it be at our jobs. Really, we should be working together.
Yeah, and I will say I will keep it safe for the Dutch schools, because I did work in Belgium. So Belgium schools I also know, but I don't know from Germany or other nations in Europe. But we stimulate group work, as in together make this assignment, divide your tasks, make concessions, learn how to deal with conflict, learn how to handle if one person has to do more than the other one, or if one is stuck with his part of the assignment, help and support. And that's the whole idea of working and learning them as a group, to function as a group. That means there's discussion, but it also means that there is support. So both are there. That's a vital skill that they need when they are in a job, because that's what you do. You work together. As a team, you are more productive than as a single person. So why?
Collaboration should be a given, but in America, it's not. It's frowned upon. And you take that mindset with you into adulthood, and it just starts becoming exhausting because you just don't feel like you have anybody on your side, anyone helping you, and you're doing everything alone all the time. And that there's something inherently wrong with you, or you're weak in some way if you have to ask for help, especially if you have to ask for help from your government. And finally, when you talk about United States school systems, you have to talk about the geographic bubble that we are in. We learn United States geography with intense detail. I mean, we learn all our states. We learn capitals of each state. We learn where they are, how they became a state, what times, when on the timeline they became a state. But the rest of the world, just background, just something to make the rest of the map look pretty, as the United States is sitting there right in the middle, I guess. We barely touch on modern world history or current global events unless they directly involve the US or you have a specific class dedicated to that. Usually that's at a college level, if offered at all. The amount of Americans, including myself, who don't know where most countries are is baffling. I still am embarrassed whenever geography comes up because there's a 99% chance I don't even know what country you're talking about. It keeps you in a bubble.
Yeah. That's why I started to look for this like education system. How is it possible that someone asks a American to point out on a map Germany or France, or they cannot point out Germany or France? And I'm not talking about the more difficult countries like the Netherlands or like Andorra. So where is Andorra? Yeah, nobody knows. A lot of people don't know where Andorra is, or Mallorca, or they don't know. We do. We teach our children everything about the world, including the United States, but not in this detail as in, now Germany became a republic at this and this date with that. No, we don't. But there's Germany. It's a republic. It has several states. Each state has its own government. That's what we do. But yeah, United States is the United States bubble. And I support a lot of Americans who actually, by starting a channel or reacting to all kinds of videos about life outside the US, those are, they are really eye-openers for some others. What? I support those. It should be more to this. I'm getting passionate again because it's education. It's the main part of every society. If there's not a good education, your entire society will eventually break down. It's the main foundation of every society is to have a good education system. If you don't, you're absolutely gonna lose it. Somewhere, always.
It keeps you thinking that the United States is the center. It keeps you thinking that outside of the United States of America, there's really nothing worthwhile. You don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know, then you won't aspire to know or do better or to have a better system or to copy best practices. You assume the American way is the only way because you're literally not exposed to any other way. Now, I want to say I consider myself a fairly intelligent person, and I don't think any of this necessarily makes education that I had in the United States bad, because I would not be as intelligent as I am now without some of that foundation. When you take the indoctrination parts out of it anyway. But it does explain why Americans seem like they're living in a bubble and why they have no real concept of the world outside of the United States of America. And when you leave that bubble, or the bubble starts to burst, as I feel is part of the reason that America is in the state that it is right now in 2026, you're exposed to a world that you've never really noticed or knew existed before. And seeing the world outside of the United States of America feels very disorienting. And I can completely understand that even now in my midlife. And I can't stress enough that while we all need to take control and autonomy over our personal decisions, because as an adult, it is your responsibility to continue to learn and grow. But when you hear some of these things that we are taught for 12 years of our life, in the most formidable, the most vulnerable moments of our lives, I think you can understand why there's just not as many functioning adults in the United States as you would think.
Yeah, this last part is really hitting home at her. You can see she getting emotional. It's amazing. I will not say that the American school system is bad, like she said, but it's incomplete. There is so much more that there should be in a school system than it's now. And I want to know more about it. So I'm going to take a look at more videos about how it's actually is the American school system, as and how's it actually built, who does what and why, and where are the requirements, what are the requirements to do certain stuff, etc. So I want to know. I want to know. So it's a reaction video, but some videos will be pure out of curiosity and learning about how it goes for the rest of the studies in the United States. So I hope you liked the video. If not, then maybe because it's a criticism on the United States. I've seen a lot of comments that people don't like when they are criticized. So that's again, but she explains why, and that's very, very good. And I learned a lot getting the insight of why some Americans react in the way they react. Yeah, it's very good. And if you like this kind of videos, my reaction videos, then this is a good place to look to another one. And otherwise, it would be really appreciated. Also, do you hate me or not, to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.